come a little closer and lend me your ears. Don't worry, you keep yours while I keep mine.
In each episode, we'll dig into the major stories, uncover the truth, and retrieve gems from Yada's blog.
We'll discuss what's right, bark about what's wrong, wag our tails at the thrill of discovery, and take you on adventures through the exciting world we live in today. So, fasten your curiosity leash and get ready.
Right then, coming to you with another episode of the Yada's Vlog on a Blog. Tomorrow's news, disseminated today. Let's dive in.
I could play that 100 times.
Right?
I am certain. I don't know about you, but I know I can't top the Wook. That was Wookylicious.
Pets and kids. That's what animals and kids. That's what Johnny Carson said. Never to follow on a show. So
never to follow that on a
rule
show.
Number one.
Here we are, busting right through world number one. Very, very well done, Team Yada and Wookie. You were spectacular. All right. Well, as we start on tomorrow's news today, this is a taco post. Taco means what, Kevin?
Trump always chickens out.
You are correct. It's not always. Sometimes he just blunders as opposed to chickens out. But
right.
he has threatened to bomb Iran into oblivion for a long time now. Of course, he claimed that he obliterated Iran's nuclear capability and they would never have nukes. And he set them back, to the Stone Age. That was about a year ago, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think, not even a year ago, less than a year ago. That obviously didn't happen, did it? And now he brought the aircraft carrier, the Abraham Lincoln there, the old aircraft carrier. And then he decided, oh, well, that probably is not enough. And everybody in the area, all the Muslim nations said, you can't use our airspace, nor any base that you have here, which why in the world do we have them, to attack Iran. So, yeah, I think he's flown in 500s, C-5 and C-130 and other C-17 transports to bring in missiles and all manner of bombs. And then he's, after wearing the troops out on the Gerald Ford, playing pirate off the coast of Venezuela, join the Navy, become a pirate. That's got an appeal. Yeah. That's got an appeal to it, doesn't it? That's got an interesting ring to it. He decided that without a break, he would just reposition the Gerald Ford, so it's heading this way. Of course, all of our assets have to be in the range of 1,000 kilometers off the coast of Iran, because Iran has too many effective missiles, and they would take out our carriers and other ships. But that makes it a little problematic because we like to use those old antiquated cruise missiles that we like to shoot from our ships. They have a range of about 1,000 kilometers. So we better hope that Iran musters everything of value right on the coast so that we can use it. Or otherwise, we're going to make a mess of their beaches for nothing. So here we are. We're in the big standoff. We're wondering, will Trump chicken out again, or will Trump do something far worse, which was, will he engage in the beginning of World War III? And that's really what attacking Iran is going to be. First of all, if you're an American, you're pounding your chest and saying, oh boy, we're going to give it to those Iranians, those terrible Iranians. You hear all of them giving their speeches. The fact is, what happened the last time we confronted an Iranian proxy? Those would be the Houthis, right? How did we fare against the Houthis?
They turned tail and ran. They said they were there.
We
for
did.
About a week
No, they didn't. We did.
Go.
Yeah, we got to go. We're gonna leave. What we did is we declared victory and departed the scene. It's called a strategic. It's called a strategic retreat with bravado.
Oh, so we won.
Oh yes, we won. we bombed them. They took out 2 of our fancy airplanes. They damaged a ship. They took out a couple or 3 of our really, really fancy drones. We made no difference whatsoever in Houthiville. And then we said, this isn't very much fun. We've spent billions and billions of dollars. We haven't made a dent in anything. They're shooting at us. And they're bringing down our airplanes and our drones, and they're attacking our ships, and we can't seem to make a difference. I think it's time to declare victory and retreat, which we did. So if you can't beat the Houthis, how in the heck are you going to beat the Iranians?
Well,
has anybody thought this thing through? Yeah, anybody thought this thing? Oh, yeah, I know he is wearing Netanyahu chomps at the bit because Netanyahu needs war. If it wasn't for war, he wouldn't be prime minister of Israel anymore, because everything he has done over the last 5 years has been a disaster for that country. But has anybody bothered to think through what was the primary result of Israel's and America's bombing of Iran the last time? What was the number one most important result of that ordeal?
More help from China and Russia. They moved in more assets.
That is the correct answer. Yep, a gold star for the man in the left-hand corner. There you go. Yeah, what's important here is that, America played kidnapper and pirate around Venezuela. We don't even have any troops in Venezuela, so I don't know what we were kidding, because we don't control Venezuela. But we made a big deal over Venezuela and played pirate and that sort of thing. But Venezuela, on a 1 to 10 scale to Russia and China, is a 2. They're no big deal. But Iran, Iran's like 35% of China's imported oil and gas. They are one of Russia's leading trading partners. They're not going to sit by and be idle if the United States decides that they want to destroy them. They're not in a position where they can. If they do so, they're in serious trouble. They lose all credibility, and they lose huge dependency on those relationships. So they can't do that. And since the last attack, Israel has gone from having a decent relationship with Russia and a very good, productive relationship with China to China and Russia both declaring that Israel is an enemy. And that,
they moved out all their embassies and stuff. All their embassies.
They did. They just stopped. Yeah, and China was Israel's second largest trading partner. Built their ports. I mean, that was a real blow to Israel. And now we have Russia and China providing some of their best weapon systems to Iran, and they have personnel there in Iran, and they're not going to sit idly by. And so, at this point, the fact is that Iran is a very sophisticated manufacturer of missiles and drones. They have hypersonic missiles. They have maneuvering missiles. And they have far more missiles than Israel has interceptors. And at this point, it takes 2 or 3 interceptors for these, particularly the better of the missiles, to take one out. And so, as Russia has shown in the Ukrainian war, that if you send a bunch of low-cost drones and then some missiles mixed in with the low-cost drones, a very significant amount of what you send is going to impact. And the difference is
drones
that
they're using are the drones that Russia's using in Ukraine Iranian made? They have the name Shahid or something, don't they? So
that's right. No, they are Shahid. Yeah, Shahid, the martyr is what they're called. And they were originally supplied by the Iranians. They're now made in Russia, and they're improved by the Russians, but they're still using the same name. But they're mostly manufactured in Russia at this point. But that's sort of the opening price point on drones. There's every manner of drone in the world now. But the fact is that even in missiles right now, Iran has more missiles than Israel has interceptors. And the problem for Israel in this regard is that Israel's a tiny country with 70% of the population within a very small proximity, most of it around Tel Aviv. And so if you were to send a significant number of, the Iranians do, hypersonic missiles and other missiles so that they overwhelm the Israeli defenses, Israel's in a whole world of hurt. And there's several issues with the interceptors. One is that not only the interceptors cost much more than the missiles, hugely more than the missiles. So you're going to lose economically. But not only does it take usually 2 interceptors per missile, but the lead time right now for replenishing missiles, particularly on U.S. systems, Israel could use in 1 week what it would take America 5 years to replenish.
Wow. Yeah.
So they're not getting, they're not going to get resupply. So that's the reason why that last war was called at the end of 12 days. Israel was out of interceptors. And this time, because of the Russian involvement, because of the far more sophistication of Iran, the fact that Iran's not going to be the least bit timid in the way that they approach this, it is likely that the U.S. will lose a ship. It is likely that that Israel will be badly damaged, particularly in the Tel Aviv area, and that the only solution for Israel will be to literally, with the United States begging for it, to sue for peace. Trump will say, "Oh, I solved another war," even though I started it, or Israel started it. But they're going to have to sue for peace, and if they do, there's only one thing that would cause the Islamic forces to say, "Okay, we'll call it off." And you know what that is?
Oh, they want the 2-state solution, and
yeah, that's what they want. They want an Islamic State carved out of the heart of Israel, not because they want an Islamic State in Israel. They don't. They have no interest in that. But that's what they'll demand. Because why do they want the Islamic State carved out of the heart of Israel when they hate the Fakistinians?
Oh, because then it's a jumping off point to take over all of Israel.
That is correct.
We're right
there. This 2-state solution is the 1-state solution. It will solve what the Muslims would call their Jewish problem. You give the Muslims a Islamic State carved out of the heart of Israel. Israel is indefensible. And now the only country that can veto that from becoming a reality and being imposed on Israel is the United States, but the United States is going to have to capitulate if they engage in this war. So this is just an interesting point of discussion. And it's interesting to us for several reasons. One is I am the foremost expert on the religion of Islam in the world today. There's no one that knows Allah, Muhammad, the Quran, the Hadith better than I do. I've written 5 books on Islam. They are the most comprehensive analysis of the Quran and Hadith, Muhammad and Allah ever written. They're irrefutable. And so I know a lot about the mindset of Muslims and what they have sought to do for the past 1,400 years, which is to perpetrate genocide, really on all humankind, but primarily focused on Jews. The second reason is that I don't think there's anyone on the planet that cares more about Israel than I do. And we do. They're God's people. We are here to protect them. And the best way to protect them is to tell them the truth. And in this case, the truth is they're putting themselves in a terrible situation. And the reason it's such a terrible situation, Kevin, is that they already played right into the Muslim hands. When the purpose of Alaska flood in October of 23 was not to occupy Israel. They weren't trying to conquer Israel. They didn't invade to conquer. They didn't invade to occupy. They invaded Muslims on sneakers with garden tools, for the most part, for the express purpose of taunting the Israelis to do what they did, which was to destroy Gaza. That is what they wanted. And you read Sinwar's notes and his instructions: rape, plunder, be as mean and as bad and as vicious as you can possibly be. Viciousness was the underscoring theme, because they knew that how the Jews would respond to that and what Jews would do to get their hostages back. And they knew they could control them, and they knew they had the pieces in place because they were being funded by Qatar, and Qatar had funded all of the anti-Israel movements around the world. And they were already calling Israel genocidal before Israel even responded inside of Gaza. And by doing this, you have all the talking heads everywhere, mainstream media to social media, all condemning Israel as being genocidal, when in fact the situation is quite simple. All of that was designed to taunt Israel into destroying Gaza, which Israel did, which they knew would isolate Israel, such that Israel would have only one highly unreliable ally in the world, and that's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And he's the great betrayer. He's the one the prophet spoke of that is specifically going to betray Israel. And they put themselves in that position as a vassal of Donald Trump. And they knew they would be totally isolated, and that America would give up on them, would be forced to give up on them to maintain the petrodollar. And so this was their play, and Israel played right into their hands and completely isolated themselves. It made the two-state solution inevitable and imminent, and now they're taunting it again with an attack on Iran. And if that attack happens, we're going to see these pieces play out this way. We are only, 90 some odd days, 93 days, I think is what it is from today, to the this beginning of the time of Israel's troubles. It starts on 22 May of this year, and it lasts for 7 years through Taruw'ah, 24 September of 2033. It's going to be the worst time in the history of the Jewish people. I mean, the worst time in the history of the world. And that man with the broom there and the witch's hat, he's going to be the primary perpetrator. He is going to be deadlier, more deceitful, more destructive than the worst humans who have ever lived. He's going to be worse than Genghis Khan and Kublai Khan and Tamerlane and Muhammad and Paul and Hadrian and Hitler and Mao Zedong and Stalin. This is going to be, he's going to go down as the single worst person who has ever lived, because he is Satan incarnate. And we were able to prove it through the prophets, and he proves it every day with everything he says and does. So that's where we are. It's going to be interesting to see what happens if the United States attacks, or if Israel attacks. Then you know what's going to materialize. Israel's going to be put in a very vulnerable position, and the only solution will be the Islamic State. And that would make it possible for the Shabuah harvest to occur in 93 days as opposed to a year from that time, because the capitulation of the heart of Israel is a prerequisite for that harvest. Both of the most detailed prophecies speaking of it talk about that man being the betrayer, and America being the country that finally gives up on Israel, and that the nation is thinned at the waist and it becomes indefensible at the time of the beginning of the time of troubles and concurrent with the Shabuah harvest. So that's what's happening. We'll see how it plays out in the next 90 days.
Yeah, it's interesting to me to kind of war game, or whatever you want to call it, how things go nuclear, because I think that it's unlikely that Iran is going to use nuclear weapons against Israel because of the prevailing winds. It just blows all that crap right back into Iran, and then Jordan's not going to be very happy about that. And so I think that, like you were saying, one of our ships, or one of the United States ships gets hit. I think the United States will say, okay, it's, we lost American lives in this. We've lost a large asset. We look bad. I think they'll open up nuclear strategic tactical little guys in Ukraine, or against Ukraine and Russia as a pop back. That's the only really way I see things going nuclear at this point.
Yeah, I think that the nuclear exchanges, and I happen to agree with you. I don't think that when I read through prophecy that Iran's going to use a nuclear device against Israel. I think that Iran now has nuclear bombs, and I think they can deliver them, and they may deliver them against a U.S. ship. That I don't know. But I don't think they're going to use it against Israel, because Israel, while it gets badly bludgeoned, is not completely destroyed. Right. So it's unlikely, but Israel's going to get it's going to be the equivalent of that. And at this point, what the Iranians have proven is that their ballistic missiles are as effective, if not more dangerous, than a nuclear bomb would be anyway. They're more effective against Israel. The nuclear issue here is that if Israel is losing and can't get a solution, they can't negotiate a peace by giving up the Palestinian state, the fake Palestinian state, Israel could use its nuclear bombs as the only way to survive as a nation. So it is very possible that Israel could do so. Now, if Israel does so, the whole world's going to come unglued. Now, so that would be devastating. And now, as it relates to the main issues on nuclear activity, China and Russia have had it with the United States. So it's only a matter of time that the United States and the UK and France and others provoke Russia into a nuclear retaliation. That's the danger of that Ukrainian war. Not only was it grossly immoral, the United States perpetrated regime change, as we always do. It turned out horribly bad. And we used Ukraine as a proxy to beat up Russia. And that worked out horribly bad. And so we created this war. And if we continue to escalate this war by sending ever more weapons, and if those weapons can hit inside of Russia is, after a while, it's just going to say, it's not worth it anymore. And they will respond with nuclear weapons. And Russia has a nuclear weapon right now. If they really get miffed at the United States, that is launched from their submarine, where that weapon literally creates a nuclear tsunami. And it'll take out entire coastal cities, and there's nothing that can be done to stop it. In fact, Russia probably has 5 delivery systems that the United States can't stop and will never be able to stop. So the United States is playing with fire. That's the thing that the Lindsey Grahams and the John McCains that started this war, the George Bushes that started this war, didn't think through, which is that you're dealing with a country that has a very sophisticated nuclear defense. And that if you were to win that war, the proxy war against Russia using Ukraine, then it's going to end in a nuclear war, and America is going to be destroyed. And so the only positive option they could hope for, which is to win, was going to be the destruction of the United States. And if you lose, then right now, probably upwards of 2 million lives have been lost, and hundreds of trillions or hundreds of billions of dollars. So it was really an idiotic thing to be pursuing, and we're still pursuing it. But those are the two most likely, I think, scenarios for a nuclear exchange. We push Russia just too hard, and Russia responds the only way it can, or Israel responds to a certain defeat with nuclear weapons. Or the third is Trump is so unstable and does so many things that are so crazy. He could ignite a nuclear confrontation with China or with Russia, just because he's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the possibility that the one that keeps you up at night. That one that comes out of the dark out of nowhere, the one that you don't even see coming. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, he's total chaos. He solves. Each week he says things that any other president would be impeached and be out of office for the one thing that he did. And every week he doubles down on something that's worse. And so you have a tendency to forget about what happened the previous week because he's that crazy. He's a total complete confabulator.
Talk about forgetting. We're talking about a hot war in Iran right now. No one's talking about Iran protests or anything. That's just, remember? Yes. Trump said we were going to round up the bad guys. We're going to be there to help support the protesters. And everything.
Oh yeah, keep their names. Yeah, if they kill anybody, we'll be right there. Oh yeah. No, it was, first of all, we started those protests.
Yes.
The CIA and Mossad are the ones that encourage those daggone protests. And as I watched those protests, I said the same thing on Facebook and X that I've said now for the last 20 years, which is that the likelihood of successful regime change in Iran, after America's already screwed it up twice We screwed it up before the Shah, and then we replaced the Shah with the Ayatollah. That was Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer and anti-Semite. We're the reason. The United States is the reason that Iran is in such a mess. We have perpetrated some 100 regime change operations since the end of the last World War. The CIA is the roguiest, nastiest, most immoral force on the planet. And the CIA, and working with Mossad, decided they would push for regime change, not recognizing that regime change in the Islamic world never turns out well. Look what happened with Muammar Gaddafi. Look what happened with Saddam Hussein. Look what happened with the Northern Alliance and getting replaced by the Taliban in Afghanistan. No matter where you go, look what happened in Syria. You got rid of Assad and you got the Islamic State. It never works in an Islamic country. And so what they were pushing for had no chance of success, and a lot of people got killed. And I keep on saying the same thing. You've got issues in Iran that won't allow for this to be a success. One is that there's no unifying force of the protesters. The protesters can't just say, we don't like those guys, and some don't like them because they're Islamic, some don't like them because they're socialists, some don't like them because, well, they just don't like authority. But there's no unifying force. There's no thing for them to rally around. I mean, they're not going to rally around to bring a king back. So there's no unifying thing that they can rally around. And therefore, in a country, you can overturn a country if the people that want to overturn it are like the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia or the Nazis in Germany. 3.5%, 4% is enough to overturn an entire country if, in fact, you are the people that are trying to overturn it are well armed and they're vicious. If they're sufficiently vicious, the rest of the country will capitulate. But in Iran, the protesters don't have guns, and the Islamic regime is
than Islam,
is vicious, and so they didn't have near the turnout that was necessary. And I immediately said, I know you're all saying this is going to turn out to be regime change, but no, it's not. And let me tell you why. And so, I'm not bragging here, but I'm just trying to help people have a better understanding of what they should be listening to here. Is that over the last 20 years, I probably issued upwards of 1,000 predictions of what's going to happen in the future. I've never been wrong. Yeah. So it's something to consider here. I know these situations very well. I've not only traveled in 175 countries around the world and student of history and economics and of politics, but I don't think anyone knows the prophets better than I do. So I know what's going to happen, and it's fairly easy to predict when you know the mindset of the politicians and of the religions that are involved in these things.
Yeah. We move on. We're going.
Sure. Oh yeah, those are the Houthis. I made that post. I said, so the last time we played this game in the United States, we're gonna go get some. We're gonna get some Houthis. We're gonna bomb. What do you say? Bomb them out bomb them like they've never been bombed before. Obliterate them. Yeah, well, bomb them like they've never been bombed before. Well, the fact of the matter is, they beat us. The U.S. turned tail and ran, and made no impact on them whatsoever. And look at these guys. I mean, I think if you took the IQ, the collective IQ of that entire picture there, I'm not sure you'd get into double digits.
Right. It's tough to bomb somebody back to the Stone Age when that's home,
When that's home, it's and that's comfortable for them. They would say thank you. Yeah. Very nice. I appreciate that. In the rest of the world, we came out of the Stone Age a long time ago, but in Arabia, that's not the case.
Yeah.
So they'd be happy. But look at them. I mean, what in the world are they going to do with their old rifles against anybody other than themselves? I mean, think about them. They're pointing they're all got their rifles. Who are they going to shoot?
There's 2 Kalashnikovs in that shot, but the rest of them are I don't even think they're semi-automatics. They're old single shot M1s or something. It's I'm like nice rifle, but still.
And we lost to them. Well, the U.S. did.
Yeah.
I'm a former American, so I use the term "we" a lot. I'm an expat now, so but I still,
lot, yeah.
by habit. What you got there next, there, Kevin? Oh, this is it's kind of a screenshot of the YAHOWAH.com website. It's YAHOWAH.com, and I just wanted to take a minute because there's just so much there. There's the books offer 35 books, all free. They're based on my translations, either of the Dead Sea Scrolls and therefore the Torah, Prophets, and Psalms, or I translated the oldest 69 manuscripts of the Christian New Testament, and then compared what Paul and the likes of him had to say, Paul, Luke, Mark, and the like, to what God actually said. So I have both translations side by side to disprove Christianity. And then I have 5 books where I translated the Quran and set it into the context of Muhammad's life and reordered it chronologically to disprove Allah and Islam and Muhammad. And so there's a lot of information here, a lot of very sophisticated, unique, powerful, impactful translations and commentary. And on many of these cases, too, if it's not Hebrew, I'll also provide other popular translations so you can see what other people have come up with. And the same thing is true with the Quran. I think I provided on average 3 to 4 translations of every statement. And I present the entire Quran, set the entire thing into the context of Muhammad's life. And then, the series introduction to God, where I actually come up with proof that God's name is pronounced Yahweh, and have determined that Jesus never existed, that David is the actual Messiah, Son of God. He is the returning king. He is our Savior. He's the one who was crucified, fulfilling Passover in 33 CE. Enormous information, all free. Every one of those books is available as and they're average about 700-800 pages a piece. Everyone's available as a flip book. They're all available as PDFs. They're all available royalty free from Amazon. If you want the paperback version of the book, here happens to be an example of one. 35 of these books, and then in addition to the books, we have now a translation index, and the translation you click on any book, and you can go right to a single passage or a single chapter, and it will present every translation of every verse within that chapter. And you can see them side by side, and you can actually click on the words and go to a definition of the words that were used. But also you can click on the hyperlink that for each of those translations, and it'll take you to the flip book where that translation is presented with all of the introduction and commentary and insights that can be derived from it. Very powerful.
The glossary's in there. The glossary's in there now. So if you don't know how to spell something, you want to look up words close to it, around it, and like it, you can just scroll through the glossary.
Yep. I'm working on a presentation. Joe, who is the technologist that are doing this, and are working on a plan that does something that Hebrew is really tough in this regard, because Hebrew has 2 letters that are presented typically by an apostrophe, and scholastically they were presented pedantically by a closed and an open quote. But the problem with that is that all of the online tools that can be used to create a glossary or to link to now use just a vertical quote, and they don't distinguish between the open and closed, so you don't have a distinction between the aleph and the ain. And so when I wrote all of these, I didn't see there was a need for that. And also I knew that Word does not treat things like quotes well. It makes assumptions and changes them based upon what it thinks you want to do. Right. And so now I'm going back, and I'm actually using a superscript of the original Paleo-Hebrew aleph, which is a ram's and bull's head, and the ain, which is an I, and I'm using it as a superscript to show what letter is actually there. And now that we know that, we're finding ways to key to lexicons that actually make a distinction between the aleph and the ain, so that we'll have a far more functional glossary when all that is done. So that's the part we're working on now. We have a whole section of just for music, because the music that is being written now is just so inspiring. It's uplifting. The lyrics are spectacular. It's one of the most effective tools that we have. There's a whole now page of songs. We're working today,
and it's good music. It's
good music. It's good music with great lyrics and beautiful graphics to support them. And I think right now there's another song that'll be published where the graphics have been done. I think you're working on the transitions as the final stage in that. And then we'll have another one. And then there's, I think, 4 more in the pipeline. There's actually 3 that are reggae that are just breathtaking. They're so good. And so we'll work on the graphics for those too. So the music is really stout. But now, my favorite part of what we're doing are the invitations, particularly the animated invitations that are being produced by the team. And there's such a wonderful part of this expression of calling people back to Yahweh that I want them presented first and foremost on the homepage, and then to have a whole page of them. So I'm working out a plan that will take them from the Facebook page, for example, and automatically populate a page on the site for them. We now have a lovely timeline that's graphically and beautifully presented, got rid of all the clutter, and tells you all the important dates over the last 6,000 years and what's going to happen over the next 7 years. So it's a very effective.
The Shabua countdown clock is at the very top. So if you ever
absolutely, so you know how much time we have left. Yes,
right.
Yeah. So I check it from time to time. I think we have 93 days.
Right.
Not a lot of time to get stuff done. So anyway, it's a marvelous site, YAHOWAH.com. There is no, you'll find there's no donate to us button. There's no signing up for anything. You can come and go. You're completely anonymous. We do not track you.
No secret
We do not
password?
ask for anything from you. You cannot make a donation. We don't ask for anything. The books are totally free. Everything is free. And it also has this blog, which is a picture and words. They're automatically populated from our social media pages, so you can see what we're saying about the news. And it has our blog, which we produce 1 or 2 shows every day, at least 5 days a week, that are like this and others on the books that I've written, and like this one on our posts. And you can click on any of them. You don't even leave the site, and yet you're getting all the benefit of YouTube and the streaming capability of a YouTube, which is spectacular, without ever having to leave the site for the vlogs. And then there's a link to all of our social media accounts, because we're everywhere. I think we're 15 or 20 different locations now in social media. So it's all available for you. It's a beautiful site, and very robust and getting better every day. And you should capitalize on it.
When are we going to tear it down? When are we going to have our Reagan moment? Mr. Netanyahu, tear down that.
Tear down that ugly wart.
That boil.
That boil, that wart, that scar. The post, when people talk about this, would say that's the 3rd holiest site in Islam. You got to be careful. You got to be respectful of that. It's the 3rd holiest site in Islam. That's because people are universally ignorant. That is a complete and total embarrassment to Islam, as is the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That was to commemorate Muhammad's night's journey. He was sleeping when he was 66 years old, if he was born in the year of the elephant, which is what the Quran claims. He was 66 years old when he climbed into bed with a 6-year-old girl. She was the daughter of his best friend. And so, as a pedophile of the worst possible type, he was struggling with his credibility, and not just for being a pedophile, but because the week before his night's journey, he was the one who blundered by the satanic verses. You see, what he had done is he had engaged in what I call this idolatrous capitulation, where the Meccans, which just got so tired of him, they actually weren't Meccans, it was in Petra, but the Quraysh, his home tribe, got so disgusted with him that they said, come on, we know who you are. You're just a fraud. So we'll give you what you want. You just stop being so belligerent and antagonizing us. We'll give you sex, power, and money. You can be king for a day each year. We'll give you a bunch of money, so you just shut up, and you can have the prettiest girls in town. And then let's just call it a day, and you'll take it, and we'll all be at peace. And he did. He accepted the deal. The deal was that if he did that because the Kaaba was a meal ticket, that people would come in and they'd water their camels and dust off their rock gods. And, it was a place you could store whatever your favorite rock god was. You could put it in the Kaaba, and it was 365 of them. So there's a lot of rock gods there that you could water and feed and take care of. And they said, so, our three primary gods, Allah wasn't, it was not even an honorable mention in the Kaaba. It was Allat, Al-Uzza, and Manat. And they said, so if you will recognize our goddesses in your Quran, then we'll be good. And so Muhammad came out the next day and he says, oh yeah, they Manat, Allat, and Al-Uzza, they're good to go. They're goddesses. And so Abu Bakr, who was the father of Aisha, who was Muhammad's 6-year-old sex toy, said, wait a minute. I gave you my daughter. I'm all in on this deal. And I'm the only friend you got. And you promised me that we had a monotheistic religion. And now you got 4 gods. And by the way, of the 4 gods, Allah wasn't even one of them. It was Ar-Rahman, was the other god that was the primary god that Muhammad was touting. He wrote even chapters, surahs to Ar-Rahman. And he says, so what's the deal here? That won't work. And I'm going to leave you. I'm taking my daughter. You're done. And so Muhammad the next day says, okay, that was the satanic verses. All of Allah's messengers speak on behalf of Satan. So now he is really mocked. He accepted the idolatrous indulgence. He then reneged on it by saying that he spoke for Satan. And so he was being mocked out of town. And so he needed a Trump moment where you have a new crisis that's crazier than the one before, so they forget the one before. Well, he needed that.
Right.
And the night's journey to Jerusalem, and he didn't know the name of the town, but the night's journey, which later they claim was to Jerusalem, was that moment. That was his crisis. So he imagined in the middle of the night, he's sleeping there with Aisha, and he's visited by Al-Barak. You know Al-Barak? Well, Al-Barak happens to be,
I don't know.
It's a winged ass. It's a donkey mule.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it's halfway between a donkey and a mule with wings. Yeah, that's what it was. And he jumped on the donkey mule and he flew to the city whose name he didn't know to visit the temple, which was destroyed 600 years earlier, but he didn't know that either. And when he was there, he met with all of the Jewish bigwigs, and he didn't know they were all dead. And so he gets there, and then this dome is over the hoofy print because the flying donk mule leapt up to go visit Allah, because evidently, according to Muhammad, you can't get to Allah out of Kaabaville, which was Petra, but now they claim it's Mecca.
Right.
So you can't get there. You have to go to Jerusalem if you want to go visit Allah. I guess all the gods hang out in Jerusalem. They don't hang out, in Kaabaville. So that was and it was a little glitch, a hiccup on the Al-Barak trip up to Allah, because the first stop, it gets worse. The first stop wasn't heaven. Nope, it was hell. So if you want to go visit Allah, you got to go through hell. And when he went to hell, according to Muhammad, that he saw that all the inhabitants were women. And these women were hanging from meat hooks through their breasts. Lovely place, hell. And so he asked, why are all the women in hell and why are they hanging through from their breasts and meat hooks? And he was told because they didn't treat their husbands appropriately. They were didn't show proper gratitude.
Let's just toss that one in there in case, right?
Then before he left, though, he saw his adoptive son's wife and said, oh, man, she's a real hottie. I think I like her. And as it turns out later, he had incest. He stole his adopted son's wife. When he already had a full harem of children and rape victims. But anyway, that's then he leapt up and he went up to there's 6 more stops along the way. He finally gets up to Allah and he has a big discussion with Allah. And you think, oh, well, finally we're gonna have a revelation, because thus far in the Quran we got nothing. I mean, there hasn't been anything in the entire Quran that is even worth putting at the bottom of a bird cage. That's how terrible this book is. So, maybe we're gonna get it. We're gonna get something, huh? Now, all I wanted to say is I wanted to be mooned 50 times a day.
50
and Mom was, wow, that's a lot, but okay, that's what you want to do that. So he claims that he visited with Moshe on the way back down, and Moshe says, he tried that same trick with me, but you just need to go back up and negotiate. You can get it down to 5. I got it down to 5. You should go back and negotiate. And he went back and negotiated with Allah and got it down to 5 because it was too oppressive for Muslims to have 50, even though Allah wanted 50.
The moral of the story is it took a Hebrew to teach an Arab how to negotiate. Is that what?
No, that's true. That part of it is true. And the only way you can get to Allah is through Jerusalem. And to get to Allah, you have to go through hell. All of that's true. And that donkeys fly.
Donkeys fly. Yes.
That is what that piece of crap memorializes. Now, if that isn't embarrassing to your religion, you tell me what is. And so when I say that isn't the third holiest site in Islam, that is the single biggest embarrassment to Islam, and it ought to be torn down. And since I'm going to have the opportunity to spend 3.5 years in that place, I made a deal with the guy that sending me there. I'm allergic to that kind of stuff. I want it destroyed before I arrive. That is my deal. I'll do whatever you want, but you understand, I'm not going to be any good if that thing is at my back. So it's got to go. So Israel, you can man up and take it out now and get credit for it, or we'll take care of it later. Your call.
Yeah.
But you know what I would have done on Alaska flood 1.0 when it occurred on 10/7/23 is I would have said to the Muslims, I'm going to cut your deal here. You took 250 women and children, men. They're all back tomorrow, and I'll let that dome stay. If they're not back tomorrow, I'm going to blow it up. And I'm going to give you then. I'm serious. Then I'm going to give you another day to return them, or I'm going to blow up Alaska Mosque. And if they're not back in 2 days, I'm going to blow up Alaska Mosque and then do it. And completely toss the control of the Temple Mount away from Jordan and say, this is the capital of Jerusalem, it's the capital of the Jewish people. Your piece of crap doesn't belong here. Goodbye. It's gone. That's what I would have done. And while they might not have gotten the hostages back, I had a much better chance than anything else was going to be that would, if you do anything else, you're going to release tens of thousands of Islamic terrorists, which it's going to be like the Shalat deal, where you free one and you assure the deaths of thousands of others, and that's exactly what the Shalat deal did, and that's what these deals will do. So that was the only way to avoid that kind of deal, and I would have done that.
Yeah, as Israel. The world hates you already. The world is against you already. It's not like they can get more animosity towards you for destroying this historic site or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, pick the thing up and plop it down in Gaza. I want my hostages back. And if they don't, here's the next piece.
Oh, but this is the threat, Kevin. You haven't thought about this. See all those graves that are along the that eastern wall there?
Yeah.
Down this view, all the graves that are around there. All those graves are Muslims that came in during the conquest of Israel. During the first 100 years of Islam, Muslims killed 200 million people. They raped probably an equivalent number of women and enslaved that many people. They raped, enslaved, and killed 1/3 of the Earth's known population at the time. And so as they came into Jerusalem, the Muslims who died all said they wanted to be buried along the gate into the Temple Mount, so that when they believed that Jesus was coming, that when Jesus was coming, they could keep him from entering the city.
Right.
Good luck with that, huh? Well, actually, Jesus is not coming, so are going to be successful. They will keep Jesus from coming
It's
back because he wasn't here
I
the
think
first.
those stone boxes are going to make nice stadium seating. That's
I think
all
so.
that-
Well, particularly on the
for
Mount
when
of
Taruw'ah pops
Olives.
off, yeah.
Absolutely. It'd be a nice stadium seating for the Mount of Olives to view all the
Right.
things that are going to happen
Place
there.
to put your picnic basket and everything. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, goodness. This is
Jews.
we're an
on
equal
Jews.
we're an equal we're equal religious hater.
Mhm.
So we don't really have a significant prejudice. I am opposed to and have proven Christianity wrong, Islam wrong, and Judaism wrong. Now, in this particular case, as I understand it, these are the Haredi. They're the only thing they'll protest is their right to be parasites and not have to lift a finger to either work,
And I have to.
contribute to the state of Israel, or defend the country. And they'll beat up women for that right. And these are women that had to be protected by the police because they were being beaten up by the Haredi parasites. The Haredi are absolutely nothing better than blood-sucking parasites. They contribute nothing. They drain everything from the nation. They don't work. They don't serve. They have absolutely no value. And Israel is so badly damaged by these people. They cause people around the world to despise Jews. They're so despicable. And
Yes.
and they are, even in the country, it's a house divided, because you have 30% of the people that are Marxists. You have 30% of the people that are ultra orthodox, and they're both useless on both sides of the equation and at each other's throats. This is a nation without a constitution and a parliamentary system, which is the system of bribes and capitulation, and it has no chance of success.
Yeah, the
And
only
these-
time you see news stories of Jews is how it always says, Jews harassing people in Judea or Samaria, where places where Muslims are allowed, are the Haredi settlers. Those are the ones that are antagonizing. Not that it's a double-edged sword. I mean, I don't want the Muslims living there
You're
either.
close.
But at the
No,
same
you're
time,
you're close. You're close. When they show people being antagonized by Jews in Jerusalem, Christians being spit at, it's by the Haredi. So the Haredi are the vulgar ones that are spitting at Christians. When they show violence against the Muslims in Judea and Samaria, those are politicized religious Jews. They're typically Orthodox, but not Haredi, because they work.
Okay.
They're in orchards and things like that, and they're defending their communities. But they've had it up to here with Islamic terrorism, and they don't recognize that even though the ratio of settler to Muslim attacks versus Muslim to Jew attacks is 60-1. That they don't realize that one is viewed as the world is worse than the other 60. And they do Israel a great disservice by what they do and their inability to control themselves. And it was actually one of these that led to the diabolical nature of October 7th, because there was the battalion that was supposed to be guarding in southern Israel along the border was brought up by Netanyahu to protect a celebration of the rabbinical close of Sukkot. And it's a purely Jewish holiday. It has nothing to do with the Torah. And although they give it a Torah name, and they wanted to be protected because they wanted to antagonize Muslims by having their celebration in Islamic areas. And so they brought up the defensive forces to protect them, which left the Gaza border unprotected. One of the dunderhead moves, and it's all because of these Haredi. They are the reason that Netanyahu is still in power.
Yeah.
The reason I showed this is that, yeah, I love the, social media says, don't forget this. Take advantage of it. It's today. The only place you can see this is in Antarctica. So if you want to go down to Antarctica, there you go. It's a little late now, but you could have seen it in Antarctica. And lucky for them, this time of year, the sun is actually up in Antarctica. It's down in the Arctic, you couldn't see it if it was one in the Arctic, because the sun doesn't make it away above the horizon this time of year. But in Antarctica, it does. And so that's where this took place. But the reason I show it is that the most significant eclipse is going to be on Taruw'ah in 2033. And it is be the greatest show on earth. There'll be more things that happen profoundly around this world on Taruw'ah, September 23rd and 24th of 2033 than any other time in the history of our planet. All traces of religion are going to be removed. God's going to terraform the entire earth back to the conditions of Eden. There's going to be 2 transports that bring the qualified Goyim and the qualified Yehudim and Israelites into Jerusalem. There's going to be the sacrifice of the Adam of Perah. At that time, it's going to be orchestrated by Elia. And the remnants are going to be purged so that they're prepared to witness King David's, the Messiah, son of God's return with Yahweh 10 days later on Yom Kippurim. It's just going to be the most magnificent time in the world, and it's going to be set off and introduced by a solar eclipse. It's the one time where the moon, rather than reflecting the sun's light, the moon's the big deal, because it's the lesser luminary doing its thing on behalf of the greater luminary, Dod and Yada. So it's just a way of drawing attention to what's going to happen in 7 years from now.
You can read all about it at Sarah.
You can at Sarah. That is correct, and also in Harvest. Katsir Harvest has quite the explanation what's going to happen on those 2 days, Shavuot and Taruw'ah. Oh, I'm so tired of this. But Jews want to have the world believe that their enemy is Hamas. Hamas is simply a symptom of Islam. Hamas didn't declare war on Israel. Hamas didn't start this war, not even by a billion extent. Hamas did not. The minority of those who came across the border were wearing tenny rompers and carrying garden tools. They were on foot. They weren't Hamas.
Didn't have their Hamas-issued headband, the green headband.
No, right. or the automatic rifles or the unis none of it. The vast majority were just run-of-the-mill Muslims. Hamas is a terrible organization, but they weren't the cause of it. They weren't the one who started the war. Islam started this war 1,400 years ago. And if you don't know that, shame on you. But they started the war because rabbis started mocking Muhammad. And they started mocking Muhammad because rabbis ever trying to make a buck sold Muhammad the Talmud readings that he used to make the Quran appear religious. If they hadn't done that, the Quran would be less known today than the religious texts of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan had his own religious text, and he was a far more effective. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Genghis Khan had realized that religion is a powerful force. And so, he had his own religious text. And he built an empire that was, all Muhammad did was conquer small portions of Central Arabia where no one lived. But Genghis Khan conquered most of the known world. He had the ultimate empire. And so Muhammad would be an asterisk. It wouldn't even be known to history had rabbis not sold him Talmud readings, because he used those Talmud readings to claim that they came from Allah, twisted them to serve his situation. And that's what made the Quran seem like a religious book. And they were all purchased from the rabbis. And it's overwhelming evidence for this in the Quran and the Talmud. Not the Quran and the Talmud, but the Quran and the Hadith. And then you can compare stories of the Talmud that made the entire story would be a surah in the Quran. They just took it, plopped it right in. And almost all of the important stories and myths in the Quran that are repeated are all the Talmudic interpretations by the rabbis. And so the evidence is overwhelming. It cannot be rationally denied. And what happened here is that when Muhammad started claiming them on behalf of Allah, when they came from the rabbis, and then so the rabbis then pulled a fast one on Muhammad. They said that the correct word for Lord is rabbi. And so throughout the Quran, the most common reference to Allah is rabbi, because rabbis told him that was the right term. So rabbis are the god of Islam.
That backfired badly.
Yeah, that sort of backfired. But anyway, they when Muhammad went broke and he couldn't pay them, what do psychopaths do when they're being mocked and they can't pay their bills?
I believe the technical term is "I kill you."
I kill you. That's the technical term, and that's what he did. Yes. He perpetrated genocide. There were 30,000 Jews living in Yathrib. Killed them all. Well, didn't kill them all. Sold some as the children as slaves and raped the women and just killed the men. Isn't that fun? And then he went to Kabar. Kabar, Yehud, Kabar. He went to Kabar, and Kabar was the dress rehearsal for what happened on October 7th. Exact same thing. Farming communities early in the morning, rape, plunder, arson, murder. Allahu Akbar. That's the first time Allahu Akbar was actually said, was Kabar.
Right.
So it's Islam that declared war on Jews, and they did it because of the rabbinical malfeasance. Rabbis were stupid. Rabbis created the enemy of Islam. And you need to know your history. If you don't know your history, you don't know who your enemy is. You don't know who your enemy is, you have no chance to defeat them. And if you want to know this enemy, go to YAHOWAH.com, the 5 books of goddamn religion, 4,250 pages of irrefutable evidence, all taken from the Quran and Hadith, all presented in context, in chronological order, all documented. It completely destroys everything there is about Islam, and you'll find it at YAHOWAH.com. That's the second to last row of books on the when you click on books.
With the green snake on the front.
It does have a green snake on the front. Oh boy, there are so many places now that Jesus is coming. Oh, the prophecy is fulfilled. Isaiah says, Jesus is coming. He's going to touch down on top of the Islamic Dome of the Rock.
I thought he was going to the temple in Independence, Missouri.
No, I don't.
That's what the Mormon said.
I thought he was going to Salt Lake City
with his horn.
That's the other Mormons.
There's 2 sets of Mormons, and he's not going to the Vatican. No, he's going to land on the top of the Dome of the Rock.
Oh, okay.
He is going to be a Muslim after all. There you go. Unbelievably stupid. First of all, there is no. You know how many mentions there are? I'll just ask as a question. How many mentions are there of Jesus in the book of Isaiah?
It won't take me long to look it up. None.
None. And how about all the other prophets?
None.
I've been looking it up for years.
Jesus.
I still can't find it.
No, there is no reference.
No
reference to a Jesus by any variation of any one of those names. Ayusu, Jesus, which that name wasn't even known until 1629, 3rd edition of the King James Bibles, when it became known. There is no Mr. Christ. There was no Jesus in first century Judea. None of this is, the whole thing is just a pile of lies. And no, there is no prophesied return of Jesus, because there was no arrival of Jesus in the first place. But Isaiah does have a lot to say about the Choder, the Nakar, the Bashar, the Kol, the Adam of Parah, the man from Edom. He's got a lot to say about who's coming and what he's going to do and what you need to do. And yet these Nimrods can't figure any of this out. Why can't you read it and say there's a whole chapter devoted to the Choder? There's like 10, 15 references to the Nakar. There are
who is this
constant
guy?
references to the Adam of Parah and to the man from Edom who's going to save many. And there's none to Jesus. So why are you expecting Jesus to come back if you want to pay attention to Isaiah? And he speaks of of all of this others. And all the others happen to be one, but 1,000 prophecies about the one they're not looking for, and none on the one they are looking for.
You can't get people to donate to your ramp project to sacrifice a cow. You can't get people to donate to that if it's a guy and he's taking care of everything. So there's nothing in it for him.
No. Oh goodness. Religion. What a waste. What a waste of a soul.
What?
Oh, okay. Here they're having the Tucker Carlson effect. What they're essentially saying is that Israel is in a real pickle because heretofore, Israel had the majority of the Democratic Party and the vast majority of the Republican Party that was pro-Israel and would support Israel. And now at this point, it's in the Democratic Party, it's overwhelmingly against Israel because they're becoming overwhelmingly socialist and Marxist, and Marxism has a thing against Jews. And then in the Republican Party, under 30 to under 40, in that range, it's overwhelmingly against Israel. And part of this was that the great influencer of MAGA and the great Christian crusader and MAGA influencer Charlie Kirk turned on Israel. And then after he did, he was met with Candace Owens, who's the big Christian MAGAite, became super anti-Semitic. Then you had Tucker Carlson, who suffered the double whammy of being bribed by Muslims and then admitting that he was demon possessed. And he is a shrill voice against Israel and against Jews. And then you have, Nick Fuentes used to be the great anti-Semite white supremacist. And now even Nick Fuentes says, I don't know what's wrong with the rest of you guys. You're just way out there. He was as bad as they got. And now he is almost a moderate compared to these others.
Wow.
The fact is that anti-Semitism is worse now by far than it was in 1920s and 1930s Europe. And it's worldwide now. And it's far more entrenched, far more vicious. And it's virtually every Marxist and socialist. It's virtually everyone that's under the age of 30. It's virtually it's the overwhelming majority of Christians, and it's 100% of Muslims. And so Israel is completely isolated. And guess what's going to happen if you're completely isolated?
Oh, yeah. It was interesting to me to see in the Minneapolis protests, the amount of people that were there protesting ICE, in an immigration, were wearing the what's the Palestinian, the kifa. Yeah. And I'm just, there's no, branding isn't the word, but there's no ideology behind it other than it's just the other ideology of what we want to fight against. I mean, it's like, I don't know how
there's no thinking. There's no thinking.
Yeah.
No. That they're calling Israel genocidal when Islam is the great genocidal foe of the world, the most genocidal religion in the history of the world. And they're Marxists who have been genocidal. If you look at the number of people killed by Marxists since Karl Marx created the ism, it's right around 200 million people. And you look at the number of people that Muslims have killed, and in the first 100 years, it was 200 million, and it's been about 50 million since then. So it's 250 million. So they are the number one, number two, overwhelmingly most vicious genocidal regimes in the world. And both of them perpetrate apartheid. In an Islamic country, non-Muslims have no rights. And racial minorities have no rights. It's every Islamic country practices apartheid. And so Islam is the most anti-Marxist religion in the history of the world. And yet you look at World War II, Hitler was a socialist. So was Mussolini. They both, though, decided that they wanted to rebrand themselves because they were anti-communist, and they were just anti-anybody that wasn't them. And so they rebranded themselves as fascists, but they were Marxists. They were socialists. And as socialists, they partnered with Muslims, and particularly in Germany. The Holocaust would never have happened had it not been for Hitler's meeting with al-Husani, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. He met with Hitler and says, I know what your plan is. You want to exile them after you've robbed them. But that creates a real problem for me because they'll come back to Israel and they'll claim Israel. And so what you need to do is just kill them. And the final solution took place. The first meeting was 2 months after Hitler met with the Grand Mufti. And that's when the decision was made that they would use the concentration camps as death camps as opposed to labor camps. So the mix of Marxism and Islam has gone on since that time, and it's lethal. And so many young people now are Marxists because for no other reason than they're just ignorant. They're ignorant. They're irrational. They can't think. They have, one of the advantages that I had besides age is that I've been there. I've seen that. I was in Russia when it was communist, and many times in Russia when it's communist. I know what a communist country is like. I was in China before the enterprise zones were there. It was actually the first group of Westerners that entered China. It was such a phenomenon that we'd walk down the middle of the street and there'd be 10 million Chinese that would just try to get a look at us. They had never seen a Caucasian face. I've seen these countries. I've been through all through the Iron Curtain countries, and I've studied economics, and so I know this beast. And they're unable to make the comparison between East and West Germany, and they won't make the comparison between North and South Korea. So they don't know that the difference between what Taiwan was and what China was, and so they don't know that when you consolidate power and you make larger gangs, that humanity always becomes more belligerent and worse. Yeah. And everyone loses because there is far less productivity because there's no incentive. And there is far more control because you have one institution deciding what everyone can think, believe, or do. You have no freedom of any kind, and you have no prosperity. And they're not smart enough to recognize that all they know is that they're super rich people and they're not super rich and they don't want to work and they just want what the others have earned. And they're not smart enough to recognize that if they were to confiscate 100% of what every rich person had, it wouldn't last them a week. And then there'd be nothing.
Yeah. No jobs.
Well, they don't want to work. So there is no job. Yeah. No, the only job they want is to be an influencer.
I met a guy from Georgia, the country. He stepped off his boat on his Liberty visa and stayed in the country back in 2000 when you could do that before 9/11 and everything. Started working at a hotel. Took him to he wanted to go buy some bread. Took him to the supermarket and he couldn't decide what kind of bread he wanted. He said, "There's too many choices." Yeah. He said, in Russia we have chleb. There's one."
Yeah, when I first went to Russia. Yeah, when I first went to Russia, I was with a group of about 8-10 people. When we had a KGB was our guide, KGB agent, and we went into the Gump department store. And we went into Moscow, and the lines were around the block, and it was the largest store in the world at the time. And I said, "Well, why are the lines?" He said, "Well, they have bread today," and there was one. Now, they'll say they'll have toothpaste tomorrow, and there'll be a line for the toothpaste. There was one choice of bread, one choice of toothpaste. And so when they first were exposed to free enterprise and Western productivity, and there were so many choices, many of them wanted to go back to the old way because they didn't want to have to make that choice between, 300 brands of and flavors of yogurt versus, well, we don't even know what this thing is. We've never seen yogurt before. Let's see if we can play that. That's kind of a fun invitation. I'm trying to create a whole group of invitations. Is that possible for you to play and us to hear it and see it?
We can play it. I think so. Yeah. We might get slapped back if we talk over it. So.
Okay. I'll listen up.
Pretty good, huh?
Pretty darn good. And there are scores of those. And it's marvelous to see the creativity and what's being produced. And I call them invitations. These are invitations to come visit YAHOWAH or YAHOWAH.com. You can either one will get you there, YAHOWAH or YAHOWAH.com. And you'll find where your place is in the universe. You'll know exactly where it is, how things are going to play out over the next 1,000 years, what your opportunity is, how you can become light, shed these physical bodies, and be able to travel through the universe. Go visit the sun, moon, and stars. It's all there for you. It's all free. And we are offering the only guaranteed ride off of this planet alive. So it is beautiful.
I've got my ticket.
It is a beautiful piece. Yep, I've got my ticket too. I'm going to be there. So do you ever wonder why Muslims hate dogs? Because they do.
Right, yeah.
Okay, the reason. When Muhammad was thrown out of Kaabaville, it was actually Petra, but they believe now it's Mecca. I mean, they've been fooled into believing that it's Mecca, but it's Kaabaville, which is Petra. When he was laughed out of town after the satanic verses and then the Knight's Journey. The Knight's Journey was the one that really did it to him. You know, flying asses. They were smart enough to know that asses don't fly, and that he spent all night with his 6-year-old sex toy. And so he tried to beg people to, God, will you protect me? Will you take me in? Will you protect me? I've got nothing to offer, but my pet rock here. He's cut you a real good deal. You can steal all you want. You can kill as many people as you want. You can slave as many people as you want. You get to keep 80% of what you steal. And if you're killed in the process of stealing, by the way, I get 20. And if you're killed, then you go to the Islamic heaven where you get multiple virgins that will satiate your carnal desires. And so it's a win-win. That's my deal. And then he finally found a group of 20 pagans that said, yeah, we'll take you in. That sounds like a pretty good deal for us. What do we have to do? And he said, we have to pledge. We'll call it the Pledge of Aqaba. Your pledge is to wage war against all mankind. Okay, we'll pledge to wage war against all mankind. That became day one of the Islamic era. That Islam was born on that day. Now, so he went to Yathrib, which had 30,000 Jews, date farms, managed to either enslave, rape, or kill every Jew. And his mosque, so his first mosque, you think, well, it's a building. They must have built a building. No, they didn't build a building. It was this open courtyard. And the courtyard became a courtyard because it was surrounded by these small bedrooms. It's a whole group of bedrooms because Muhammad had between sex slaves and little children and the victims of rape. He had somewhere in the mid-20s, 24 of them. And they all had their own little quarters. And so the walls, if you will, the perimeter of this courtyard, which was an open courtyard, were his apartments for his sex slaves. And so it was just an open field. And so in the inside, and so dogs and other animals could come in, and dogs came in and they whizzed there and they pooped there. And Muhammad didn't like it, the dogs whizzing and pooping in his mosque. So Muslims hate dogs. That's the story.
Unbelievable.
Yep. Doesn't get any better or worse than that, but that's the answer. Okay, well, yeah, well, Muslims are headed to I guess Ramadan, and you just want to blow your brains out and say, how could you be so stupid? You know how Ramadan became an Islamic holiday?
It's hot. I don't know.
No, okay. Muhammad spent his midlife chasing off after demons and the pagan religion surrounding the hills of Petra. And he would spend sometimes weeks out there being religious, and the spirits that he was chasing all lived in caves. They were very superstitious with demons and the like, and so he was out in the month of Ramadan, being religious, and the pagan religion of the area, not very sophisticated, but the jinns were the demons, and he was out fasting among them in a cave, and in the cave, and in one of his little outings, because he didn't work. He's like all Muslims at the time. He had no job, and he was unemployed. So he had all this time he married a woman that was old enough to be his mother, so she could support him. And he went off and he was being religious in these caves. And one night in a cave, a spirit came and beat the living shit out of him, beat him up big time, and left him so battered. And then the spirits told him to read. And he said, but I'm illiterate. I can't read. Read. And pressed him again and beat him up. And he said, I can't read. Read. What do you want me to read? And he said, well, that the man was created from a coagulated clot of blood. And this is what the pen had to say. And it was the dumbest thing ever. Mm-hmm. And that was the first recital for the Quran. It's, I think, tucked away somewhere in the 96th surah. The Quran is such a jumbled mess. And Muhammad, beat all up by this spirit, kind of a Paul experience on the road to Damascus, where, Paul became blind and lame. So he was up there in the hills, and his first thought was, this has been really bad. I have been demon possessed. I'm just going to commit suicide. That'd be the best plan. I'm going to throw myself out off this ledge, but he didn't have the guts to do it. So he ended up running home to his mother/wife and said, I've been demon possessed. I'm feared for my life. And she's the one that conceived Islam. She says, no. Listen, I've invested too much money in you. You're not going to embarrass me this way. You were out there meeting with God, and you're going to be the spokesperson for God. I don't give a crap about this demon possession stuff. And that's how Islam was born. Now, the reason it floats around the calendar is because Muhammad was so stupid that every culture for 3,000, 4,000 years prior to Muhammad knew that the lunar year was 254 days, and that the solar year was 365 days. And so the only way you could keep time and keep this lunar year on track with the solar year is that every 2 to 3 years you have to add a month, intercalendary month. And if you do that, I think it's 13 out of 19 years that it totals 365 and a quarter days. It works out beautifully. And people have been doing that for 4,000 years before Muhammad, but Muhammad was really stupid. So he said that the intercalendary month was satanic and that Allah forbids it. So the Islamic year just spins right on around, the solar year, and that's just part of the stupidity of the religion.
Yeah, I thought Ramadan translated to like scorching heat or something, and so it always made me wonder why it could be Ramadan in March, or it was supposed to be the hottest month. But
yeah, when Muhammad was just a idiot in Kaabaville, they were even in Arabia, and this was Petra, so that. Petra used to be quite a place. The Nabateans had built it, and with their watering systems they had, it was the perfect place for people coming up. A perfect location too. If you were traveling up through the Red Sea and then the Gulf of Aqaba, you could reach the tip, and then directly from that tip you'd go up through the Grand Rift Valley up, and then you would go to the Mediterranean. And this was the best watering hole because of the aqueduct they had built for it, and it was this gorgeous city they built into the rose-colored. I don't think it was limestone there, but sandstone, and so it was a beautiful city. But about 300 years before Muhammad's birth, they had a terrible earthquake, destroyed the aqueduct, and The Nabateans left it. The Romans who had occupied it left it, and it was kind of a vagabond home for dropouts and left outs that would live among the rubble, and that's where Muhammad was born, and that's what he fought over. But still, they would have known, and they would have observed a normal calendar. They with the intercalendary month, and their months would not have wrapped around the year. In Hebrew they had a different system for doing this that works the same way, which is the year begins with the first crescent of the light on the moon closest to the vernal equinox. That's when barley, the winter barley crop, would be green and still receptive and growing in the head. And so it's the first sliver of the moon closest to that barley crop, which is effectively the new moon, that first light of the moon nearest the vernal equinox. And so if you do that, you're going to keep your year always in sync with the solar year. But Muhammad said, no, that's satanic. So he put Muslims in a place where their calendar doesn't work. So
he doesn't understand it, so it's got to be satanic.
Yeah, and one thing that's interesting is that Ramadan was the holy month of the pagans. Kaaba was the shrine of the pagans for rock gods, and the Hajj was pagan. The prostration prayer was pagan. The taxes were pagan. Every pillar of Islam was practiced by the pagans. So it's a pagan religion, just under a new name.
Right. And I
Every
think we're
aspect
adding
of
the
it.
submission part, submit or die, but
Well, Islam actually means submit. That's what it
Right.
means, surrender, submit. Oh, I'm so bewildered that people can be this stupid. So, Elon Musk says, well, we're going to have colonies on the moon. He's gone from colonies on Mars to colonies on the moon. Do you know why he changed?
he watched one of your programs and realized that he couldn't get anybody to Mars. It was a death sentence.
Yeah, I think that might have been part of it. It's impossible for anybody to. I wouldn't say it's impossible to send somebody to Mars. It's nigh on impossible to send somebody to Mars to actually land on Mars and survive the landing. But it is impossible for somebody to get to Mars, land on Mars, live on Mars, and then return to Earth. That it's an absolute impossibility. The physics won't allow it. It's too toxic too. So the only place that you could visit and get off the planet is the moon. But 55 years ago with slide rules, we were a lot smarter than we are today. So we can't, with AI and our computers, we can't figure out how to get back to the moon like we once did. In fact, this Artemis mission we keep on postponing, it's not going to land on the moon. It's just going to go around the moon. And so we can't figure out how to do what we did, because the Saturn V Apollo program is really ingenious. What it did is, with one rocket, no refueling, it shed mass all the way along the way, so that every component that needed to go forward went forward. And as soon as it was done, the mass of it was shed. And we even left components on the moon. And by doing that, then it was possible to land. We just, with slide rules, we made some very wise decisions 55 years ago. But we can't figure out how to do that. AI won't process the information. And then there's all manner of problems because the rocket calculation requires essentially a quadrupling of the fuel load for exit velocity.
Elon wants his rocket back.
Of an exit velocity is different, because all of Elon's SpaceX launches are low Earth orbit. They're for satellites. They're all low Earth orbit. You're not going beyond low Earth orbit. But to go to the moon, you have to have exit velocity, and to reach that velocity with the weight of his starship, the amount of fuel is just gargantuan, and you can't then accelerate to exit velocity unless you can decelerate when you reach the moon, or you'll just go whoop right on by. And when you reach the moon, you have to need more fuel to accelerate to leave the moon. If you land on it, you need first more to land on the moon, then you need more to leave the moon, then you need more to leave orbit of the moon, and then you need more to decelerate when you come to the Earth. So it's a lot of fuel, and when you're dealing with exit velocity kinds of fuel, it's 4 times the weight that you're carrying, and it's just too big, and so it won't work. And We can't figure out how to do it. And then he shows pictures like this. So here's a picture of a moon colony, and it's the moon in the background. And
details.
Like the moon's really close in the background.
Yeah, and he's got windows on the buildings. He's got windows on the buildings. You know, the problem with the moon, you know why the moon is all pitted like that? Because there's no atmosphere. So every piece of space junk hits it and rips it to shreds, so that anything that you have there, it's subject to being ripped to shreds. The reason that we don't get pummeled to the point of being torn apart on Earth is we have an atmosphere. It has to go through the atmosphere. And so you can't have windows like that. The first thing would happen is a pebble goes through that. They're traveling almost at the speed of light. They're, like in 98% of the speed of light. That blow up that entire building, but a tiniest hole would depressurize and your blood would boil. You would literally boil alive because there's no atmospheric pressure. The moment that was perforated, you'd have a second to live. And then you have the problem of cosmic radiation, both from the sun and sun flares and just these cosmic particles that were released from neutron stars and the like. And they're moving at 99.9% of the speed of light. And you can't, if you try to shield with a thin material like this, like aluminum or some form of metal or plastic, what they do is it actually takes that material and ejects it into you. So you'd be better off just naked if you could survive it, your blood would boil, than you would be inside of one of these things. Because it just would shatter your body to pieces. It becomes
shrapnel.
Yeah, it becomes shrapnel. So the chemical reaction, the way that it interacts with these metals, actually creates a more toxic effect. And so you can't have that. The only way that somebody could live on Mars, is to dig a hole. You'd have to live in a hole, or you're going to have to come up with a way that you can dig a hole and then put in your contraption and cover it with dirt. So this idea that you can live there and windows and, this is going to be a lovely resort, we'll go. No, it's impossible. And then you have the other impossibility.
If you don't have the view.
Oh yeah, and then you have the other. Yeah, might as well. That's why I said if you want to have another habitat for humanity, because you think we're going to destroy the planet, which we are, but it's not going to help you to have one. Dig a hole in the ground. You got a boring company. Dig a hole in the ground. Everything is better in that hole in the ground than it would be if you were to go off in space. And then, of course, you have the issue with gravity that the human body, after a year, is not coming back. You wouldn't survive on Earth. Too much decays. But you'd have to dig a hole in the ground. If you're going to dig a hole in the ground, what's the purpose of even being there?
Yeah.
You can't see anything. What's the purpose of even being there? So it makes zero sense to do any of this. You can't get that much material to the moon. You can't be exposed on the moon. And then you have the power issue. How are you going to power it? You can't say solar panels, because solar panels only work if you're on this side of the moon where there is light on the moon's surface. And you know how much of the time there's light on the moon's surface? 14 days, 14 and a half days, and 14 and a half days is total darkness. You know how much weight you'd have to bring up in batteries to power your little hut there for the 14 and a half days that there's no sunlight and the temperatures drop to catastrophically low temperatures? It can't be done. So then you'd have to bring up a nuclear power plant. You don't want to wait to bring up a nuclear power plant? I know. So, the whole thing is just so utterly ludicrous. But the reason that he wants to do this is because no one will fund a Mars trip, and that's $1 trillion. So you can send someone to Mars to die for $1 trillion, but the U.S. government will fund building the first habitat on the moon. You know why? Same reason we went to the moon in the 1960s. Oh, we had to beat the Ruskies, those godless Ruskies, those communist godless Ruskies. We can't let them embarrass us. We're going to beat them to the moon. That's why we went there. Now it's the Chinese who have a huge head start on us on building a mining facility on Mars, and they're very systematic in what they're trying to do, and they know what can and cannot be done, and they're trying to actually have 3D printing such that they can take the moon regula and use it to build habitat. Of course, the problem with that is that Moon Regula is so deadly that the astronauts that were there for 3 or 4 days, they said by the time that they were done, nothing functioned, and their spacesuits were almost eaten through because it's so sharp. It's just like this brittle shards of glass there, because there's no erosion to keep anything smooth, and so it's electrostatically charged, so you can't get it off of your gear. So you're tracking it into your habitat, and therefore when you go into your habitat and you're starting to breathe, just normally inside of it because you're taking off your spacesuit, you breathe in that stuff, and it tears your lungs apart. The regula is one of the reasons that the moon is not habitable. And so this whole thing makes zero sense. And it's just astounding, but we're trying to beat the Chinese. And so the US government will spend money it doesn't have. And therefore, Elon chases money. And so therefore, he's dumped Mars and now is touting the moon.
All right. I kind of on the same note, I just saw the other day where Voyager sent back some data that there is at the very edge of our solar system, they said a 50,000 degree plasma wall. So nothing gets in and out of our solar.
Really?
Yes. Voyager's sending back data that makes scientists think that there's a 50,000 degree plasma wall. So not only is our little Earth here protected in its own little with the sun and everything, our whole solar system is kind of locked off from the rest of the of the universe too. At least for us getting out, apparently.
Yeah,
but that just blew my mind.
The more you study it, and I don't want to go into a long dissertation on it because we've done it on other programs, but the more you study it, the more you realize that there is no intelligent life on any other planet. The tuning that is required for there to be life on Earth is so rare that when you actually do the math, you realize that it's essentially impossible that there's life on any other planet, even though there's 2 trillion galaxies, each averaging a couple of 100 billion stars. It's just not possible. The math doesn't work. And it doesn't even matter because there's no way for them to get here or for us to get there.
Right.
There is no way that a physical body is ever going to leave, even if there wasn't the plasma wall. There's no way for a physical body even to get past Mars. You can get one to Mars. You can get one to Venus. You can't survive either place, but you can get one there and to die there. But that's as far as you could ever go. And it's not habitable once you get there. And you can't get past it because the amount of energy necessary to accelerate an object to even approaching the speed of light becomes physically impossible. And then you have the issue of, unless you can create artificial gravity through centrifugal force, and that has all sorts of other issues, but the size and the weight of such a contraption is so enormous that there's no way to accelerate it. And you'd have to accelerate something essentially to the speed of light. And even if you did so, to get to the nearest star that would even have a remote chance of being able to have a habitable planet, you're talking about what, 50 to 70,000 years?
Right.
No, it can't be done. I mean, it's just at our current fastest that, the Voyagers are going right now. At that speed, the fastest we're going to get to anywhere is in the 50,000 year realm. That's how long it would take to get there. And if you made a mistake, well, that one didn't turn out to be very good. There's no
forgot to carry the zero. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you going to go now? Yeah, where are you going to go now?
Whoops.
Yeah, well, okay, that was fun for 70,000 years. Now where we're going to go? No, it's
Right.
until we receive what YAHOWAH has promised, where our physical bodies are discharged and our souls reside in light energy. At that point, we can go anywhere at any time, and any distance no longer matters, and all the toxicity of the universe no longer matters. You can go off and explore every planet and every solar system and be free to do so for all time, because it would take no time to go across the solar system, because on a photon of light, time simply exists. So that's what God is offering us. And without his offer,
travel plan.
Yeah, we are right here. And the reason he is restoring the earth to the conditions of Eden is that earth really is Eden. There's really no distinction between the Garden of Eden, Gan Eden, and our earth. The earth is Eden, and he's restoring it to the conditions of Eden, and is giving us 1,000 years for us to teach the mortal remnant that come back to Jerusalem how to be responsible, how to be observant, responsive, and responsible. And so that God can trust us to take us from 3 dimensions to 4, 5, 6, and 7 and go off and explore this planet. And he's not going to do that until he knows that we're observant, we're responsive, and we're reliable. And that's what the opportunity is. And I don't care what Elon Musk says or how much money he has. He can't do what he's saying he can do, but God can. And that's what his offer is. And you want to take advantage of it, the invitation is found at YAHOWAH.com. Oh, God. Judaism is not a religion you join. It's a people you belong to. I'm a proud Jew. The opposite is true. The opposite is true. Yahud is the name. If you're going to be a Jew, you are forever estranged from God. Why would you even have a religion when it is opposed to God? God is opposed to religion. Your ethnicity is Yahud or Yisraelite. Take your pick. You're a descendant of Yahud, or you're a descendant of the other 11 tribes, and you are a Yisraelite. Take your pick. It is an ethnicity. It is your DNA. You do not use religion to change your DNA. You know, there is no correlation between religion and DNA. So the religion of Judaism controls people, particularly Jews, estranges them from God, erased Yahweh's name, has destroyed the Jewish people. Yahweh hates religion, and he hates Judaism most of all. And your only hope, if you are a Jew, is for you to figure out how to become a Yehud, which you can do at YAHOWAH.com. Become a Yehud again. Yehud is a compound of Yahweh's name, Yahweh, and Dod's name, Yehud. It probably is, as I've said so many times, it's probably Yahud for Yahweh and Dod, but it's a combination of Yahweh's name and Dod's name. His beloved son. It means beloved of Yah. And that is your only way. That you can be a proud Jew all you want to, but you're gonna die. Over the next 7 years, I will guarantee you 100% of the proud Jews that join the religion of Judaism are going to be dead. 100% of them over the next 7 years. And the only way that you're part of that mortal remnant, or you're part of the harvest, or you survive this, is to stop being a Jew and start being a Yehud, and to return to Yahweh. And you need the first step in doing that. First condition of the covenant is to walk away from religion.
Absolutely. Yahweh's looking for his Yahudim.
He is. Why do some people think that they're the only intelligent species in the universe? First of all, I think that's a bit arrogant and presumptive, because I'm quite certain today most people are not intelligent. They might have been previously, but we have definitely forfeited our intelligence card. The reason is, and I would encourage people to do what I've done, is to study this, and you realize just how improbable life is. You know, the spontaneous generation of life is far less likely than a tornado flying over a junkyard and building an operable 747. Really, it is the math on it is in the range of 10 to the 52nd power.
And you mean like a cell, as far as life? You don't.
Yeah, that would be a cell. Yeah, not a cell.
Amoeba, maybe.
Right. Yeah, an amoeba. And that's to 10 to the 52nd power. It didn't happen. It can't happen. And it most certainly can't happen on an environment that is in any way different than our planet.
Right.
Life requires too many things that you just get down to things like you have to have tectonic plates. You have to have tides. You have to have a moon that is abnormally large. The Earth-Moon relationship is, we have not seen anything else like it in the universe. And it has to be that. And the reason that our Earth and moon relationship is as it is because the moon is Earth. What happened 4.5 billion years ago is a planet the size of Mars hit the Earth at a perfect speed, at the perfect angle, to keep from completely obliterating both of them and turning into another asteroid ring that caused a molten moon comprised of the Earth to form. And that's the only reason it's the size and it's the closeness that it is. And then things like the rotation, the 24-hour day that we have. If it was any slower, then the cold of night would be too cold for life, and the heat in the day would be too hot for life. And if it spanned any faster, then the storms would preclude life because the winds would blow too hard. Without the size that we are, you couldn't have the magnetic field that protects us from all manner of terrible, dangerous things that are out there once you leave the magnetic field of the Earth. And it has to be exactly the size that it is for that to happen. The ratio of toxicity in the air, where oxygen is actually toxic to plants. They thrive on carbon dioxide, but intelligent life requires oxygen. The metabolism rate is just so much greater with oxygen. And so to have a planet that actually creates oxygen, and it can't be any higher percentage than we have, otherwise you light a match and the whole planet would blow up. Look what happened, Apollo 1. And so it's just everything that you can possibly think of. The sun has to be exactly the same size as our sun and the same style of star at the exact same size. A red dwarf won't work. These blue stars won't work. It has to be exactly the same size as our star, with the longevity our star has and the stability our star has. And you have to be exactly the distance from that star that we are. Mm-hmm. And you have to have a planet the size of Jupiter, that's the distance that Jupiter is from us, to absorb all of the other impact of asteroids. Otherwise, the planet would just be completely bombarded, like happened 60 million years ago, to wipe out 70% of the life forms at that time. You can go on for an hour of all of the fine tuning that is required. You even have to have the solar system has to be in the outer ring, but not the absolute outer ring, but towards the outer ring of its galaxy. Because as you move closer into the galaxy, there's too much explosions going on and too much, if a star goes supernova, which that's how the larger ones die, and it happens anywhere near you, your planet is obliterated. Right. So it can't produce life. So you can't be in the inner part of a galaxy where most of the stars are. You have to be out in one of these wings, exactly where we are. And you have to be in a galaxy that's separated from other galaxies. The Milky Way galaxy is in this huge void where there's nothing else around it, or you'd be blown away. And as I said, you could go on and you could do the math and to say, well, how many planets would that represent? And all of a sudden you're in numbers where it becomes even greater than the chance formation of life, just to have a planet that could support it. And then if you have that chance support of life, you've got to have whatever was created have a way to reproduce itself, or you're back to the starting point all over again. Then you have to have a way for it to feed itself. And then you have to wait for it to process that food. And you have to have the food available. Otherwise, you're back to scratch again. And genetic mutations don't develop more intelligent, more sophisticated life. They go the opposite way. They're caustic. The arrogance to think that we are here on this planet and we're able to do the vlog on the vlog and have Wookiee introduce us by random chance is utterly stupid. And it's just shows you the arrogance of man and the fact that we just don't think it through anymore. We really need to go back to slide rules and get away from the computers and AI, I tell you.
I'll be happy when stacking rocks doesn't take slide rules, when we can just kind of figure stuff, a little pencil, a little paper, and yeah, nothing more complicated than that. I'll be okay with that. I'm okay
I think
living
that
in a tent, you know.
I think that the covenant harvestees on Shavuot, that are the returnees that have so much responsibility going forth, not only fulfillment of Taruw'ah, but of their to facilitate Dod and Yahweh's return on Kippurim, and then they are the exemplars and the teachers of the 1,000-year celebration of Sukkah. I think that we're going to have, in fact, I know we're going to be 7-dimensional creatures, that we're projecting just part of ourselves into physical bodies here. And so I think that we'll be able to look at something and say, I want to terraform it. I want it to be this way. Yeah. I want these living quarters, and you can think it into existence, because matter is just simply an organized form of energy. A diminished organized form of energy. So I think you should be able to think things into existence. I don't think we're going to be able to show off all that often, because we're going to be living around mortals, and we have to be able to set an example. But it's going to be a pretty extraordinary opportunity, particularly when we leave this planet and the things we get to go do together. My hope is that God did specifically create another group of planets that are ideally, so if he could do it for us, he could do it for others, and that there are others that we can go visit and we can see and experience other forms of life, or we're going to create them ourselves, or however that's going to work. But I do think that Yahweh loves life, and when he takes us around as explorers, I think we'll have that opportunity either to create life or enjoy life that he has created for us. I think the first 1,000 times that I do it, I'm going to sit back and say, you're really good at this, and you've had the practice. Why don't you create the life, and I'll sit here and enjoy it. I might even criticize some of it just for fun, but right. Yeah. Why don't you show me how to do it the first 1,000 times, and then maybe I'll try.
We can take the Torah show on the road. So what we're doing is throughout the galaxy, just plopping in different planets and delivering Torah show to the different planets. Hey guys, this is how this works out. You know.
Yeah, I think when we're going to do it as very small groups. I think by the time we're done with all this, we're all going to be introverts.
More, some of us more so than others, but yeah.
Some of us more so than others. I'm definitely going back from to my birth. I was an introvert when I was born. I'm going back to it. And that doesn't mean that you don't like people. I like people. I just don't want to be around, 1,000 of them. Just as soon.
All the time.
Yeah. Yes. The three of us will take Rich with us. We'll go out. We'll grab Kirk and a few friends, and we'll take Dr. Jeff. Of course, we'll all have wives. I'm just going with the wife. I don't think I'm going to go with the girlfriend thing. It's too much work. I'm just going to enjoy having a wife, and we're going to go out, and then we'll have a good time exploring the universe, and we'll come back and we'll do our job. We're not running from our job. But we are going to take a fun vacation.
Oh, yeah.
And it might be on Jupiter or Mars. This is one that we just talked about, the rotation of the Earth. Mm-hmm. The speed of it has to be exactly the way it is. And it even has to have the tilt that we have for the weather conditions to exist. Right. And you have to have the tectonic plates. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the different kinds of zones that are for different kinds of life. And if you didn't have uplift for volcanic activity that happens largely because of the tectonic plates, but the shifting of land masses, then warm moisture blowing over the oceans wouldn't rise to create rain. So there's so much that has to go into all of this for life to flourish and for an ecosystem to exist. So I happen to be an intelligent design devotee. The more I study, the more I realize that's the way it is. Yeah. We'll stop on this one here. This is it's interesting. They call it a 3,000-year-old Judean artifact, but it dates to the 8th century BCE. That would make it 2,700 years old. 28 if it was late 8th century, and we're adding now to the 21st century. But nonetheless, we're dealing with at least 700 years BCE, maybe 770 years BCE. We're getting within 200 to 300 years of Dod and his kingdom. We're getting really close to the time that Israel began to break up as to Israel, the northern kingdom, and the southern kingdom. And that alphabet there, that is the second iteration of Hebrew. And it's clear this was written in Hebrew all the way back in there. You know, the scholars want to say, written Hebrew didn't exist until the 5th century, so they couldn't have written any of the stuff down. That's when the Torah had to come together, the 5th century, because that's when the alphabet was first. No, it wasn't. No, it goes back.
Everybody stole from it, going back to right out of the garden. Absolutely. I think
absolutely
gave us Hebrew, gave it.
You know what? When we were trying to create that, the Yada Torah script, which is available at YAHOWAH.com. So if you go to the resource page, you'll find the script. You can download it. We're going to have a second version of it now that's more intuitively keyed. We keyed this first one just for so that we could do some copy and pasting and replace what we had with it to the old called Moabite stone. But it was insane on the keystroke. So now a yod is going to be a y, and the and the aleph will be the a, and it's going to be keyed much better than the other one was. Now, there's of course a chance that you've got some challenges. There are 3 S's and 3 T's, which make it a little more difficult. But besides that, but we had to work around on some of these things.
The V on the keyboard's open, so you can use one of those.
It is. The TASD is an interesting because you've got the Teth, the Ta, which the Ta is the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet. It's the beginning letter of Torah. It's used a lot, and so we just said, okay, that'll be the lowercase t, and the Teth, which would be second most, that would be the capital T. So we're, that makes some sense. We did the same thing with the Sin versus the Shemek. The Shemek is the capital S, and the Shin is the lowercase s. The TASD, then, you don't have 3 cases of with the shift key on the T, and so the TASD, it ends with an E sound. So we said we'll do it as an E. There's actually a symbol on our computers for a TASD. I use it all the time. It's that little curly thing, kind of a wavy looking thing. So we're going to have 2 keys. Yeah. You can use either one of the 2. And so we tried to be creative and but anyway, that'll be out soon. But all of this demonstrates that the Torah and the prophets are accurate when they say that this person was in authority and this person was working for them. We find these things written to verify all of that. It's the Torah and the prophets are absolutely, unequivocally accurate, historically, scientifically, consistently. Now, the New Testament, of course, is a joke, but the Torah and prophets.
They consistently, even in this one, you read further down, it says, from the biblical kingdom of Judea, and it's just like no, it's a Torah kingdom. The Bible's Babel, right?
Right.
They'll come up with something like this and say, "Oh, it proves the Bible's right again." No, proves the Torah's right.
It proves the Torah's right, and Torah permeates the prophets, the Nabi. So the Nabiim, the prophets, are filled with Torah because Torah means teaching and guidance, directions and instructions, and the Torah is filled with prophetic statements, and the prophets are filled with instructions that are Torah. And so it's really one message through the Torah and prophets. But there is no Old Testament and there is no Bible. Bible is Babel. It means to intermix, to confound and confuse. So, you got to get your terms right. When you're dealing with God, that's one of the first things that I did when I was going to write all these books, is that I want to get the terminology right. Yahweh's name is Yahweh. That's how it's pronounced. It's you look at God said it's based on the verb haya. That gives you 3 of the 4 letters, and it's found in the midst of the Torah teaching, and that gives you the other letter, the O, which is from the Wa, and you're off, and you can then verify it with all of the other words in the language that show that to be true. But it's important that you translate the words correctly. Like Torah is from the verb, according to Yahweh. Yahweh defines his terms. He says that Torah is from the verb yara. Yara means source of instructions, directions, teaching, and guidance. So what is Torah? Source of teaching, guidance, and instruction and directions. It's not hard to figure this stuff out, but you got to start with a clean slate and wipe the religiosity away. So that you're not using terms like Bible. You don't use terms like Scripture. You don't use terms like Old Testament. and you use the correct terminology. And it's the only way you're going to get to know God. And God's not going to make it easy. He has to have a filtering mechanism. He's got to keep the Nimrods out. He does not want to spend eternity with anybody stupid enough to be religious, or somebody that's overtly political, or somebody that's conspiratorial, or somebody that's anti-Semitic. No dunderheads allowed. You got to think your way through it. And we provide all of that. That was our job, to provide all of it and to give you all the information you need to make an intelligent decision. What you do with it is up to you.
Absolutely. And you thought you were making it too easy.
I did. That's always been one of my great concerns, was that I'd made it too easy, and God's going to be really upset with me for allowing idiots into Shamaim because I made it too easy. And everybody else is screaming, "Oh, come on! Can you just dumb it down? Can you give me the Cliff Note versions? I don't need 35 books. I just want a paragraph." So no, I ain't doing that. I'll tell you what.
Yowah says, "Yada, that one's yours. That guy's yours. He's hanging with you for the rest of the time. You brought him in. He's all yours."
Man, he's your responsibility. And I'm not going there, man. I know my lane. I'm staying in my lane. I'm okay with my lane. Yeah, right. Yeah. Although was never comfortable, or never allows you to get comfortable in your lane. His whole deal is, okay, you were pretty good with that. We're going to up the ante. Okay, well, you did okay with that. Now we're going to up the ante again. And he just keeps on upping the ante till you finally just say, "Okay, Uncle."
Well, he's growing, and so you're growing, and we're all growing.
And he's just not going to. I've tried that several times. I said, you're making this impossible, because I went from anonymous, and I can do this job as anonymous. That's really swell. But God says I don't do anonymous, and so you're not anonymous, and we're not doing anonymous. So here's who you are. And okay, you say, all right, I'm gonna grow into that, Choder and Nakri and Nakar, and then he has another 50 insertions, and then you find out that he started talking about you in the fourth day of creation, a billion years ago, and you're dealing with, oh my, okay, no pressure here, but you could make this easier if you didn't draw all this attention to your spokesperson and just let that spokesperson anonymously convey this message. And you guys said, "I don't do anonymous." So there you go. You're really dumb life decision would be to tell God that He's wrong, and you're just not gonna do it anymore. Even Moshe and Dode tried that. Didn't work out well for him. I've read the story. I'm not going there.
Right.
So, it did not work out for them. That is not the right call. So
I want to skip my 51st Mizmor moment. I want to go to my 119th Mizmor moment.
I do. Yeah, I think it's the 116th, but yes, that's what I want to do.
Yes.
And right now I'm having my 89th Mizmor moment for probably the 89th time. And you just shake your head and say, "God, this was always there, and how did I miss it? Why are you dealing with me and I missed this?" And he said, "Well, have you looked around recently on how many other options I had?" What did he say with Moshe? What was the reason he chose him? He was responsive.
He showed up.
He was responded, and he was barely responsive, right? "No, I don't want to do this. No, I don't talk well. No, I'm not going to go." Yeah. And what did Dode finally say? "God, you're what you're asking for is impossible. You're impossible. I don't want to do this anymore." The 51st Mizmor is Dode's meltdown, just as Numbers 11 is Moshe's meltdown.
Yeah.
We got through at Numbers 15, and that talked about how God's going to solve the meltdown that took place in the 11th chapter and the 12th chapter of Numbers. You know what they do in the 16th chapter? They have another meltdown. They try to go after Moshe again, and God has to kill him. They say, "Okay, well, that group's gone." After he killed everyone above the age of 20, he says, "All right." I think God's an introvert too. He says, "I'm not really interested in numbers. We're going to get this down to a few enough that we can make this work."
Right.
Well, my friend, we have gone over the 2-hour limit. I think this was an interesting.
You got another show in you? You got another show in you tonight?
I don't know. We're going to talk to Rich about that.
I guess it's the question.
It is 5 o'clock. Last night our last show ended with me ingesting moths and getting moths pummeling my my eyes because we had these bright lights. In the middle of the tropics at night. I think we ended that show at like 8:45, didn't we?
Almost, well, not quite that bad.
But it was close. I mean, it was late, and so by the time we got everything covered back up, it was at least that time. And you're saying, what do we? We got to make it to the end, and you don't want to burn the candle at both ends to the point that you don't. I am not facing God and saying, you wore me out. I didn't have enough fuel to get to the end. So we did the best we could up to a point, but
I just tell Yahweh we'd have done another show, but we couldn't get Kevin out of bed.
Well, that was this morning. That was this morning. Of course, we're 3 hours ahead of you, but that didn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I was joking. I'm going
to
move
to
Ireland. I'm going to move to Ireland so that the time zone works in my favor.
Okay. Good luck with Ireland. They love Yahweh in Ireland. Yes, that's a place that. I'm Irish, and I'm embarrassed with what they have done. All right, my friend. Well, it has been fun. I've enjoyed this format. I love the Wookiee introduction. Maybe we could play the Wookiee introduction as the outro, just because, it's fun. How about that? Can you arrange a Wookiee sayonara for us? And
I can play the Wookiee intro again, and then we can when we end the stream, it'll play the Kara outro. So you'll see intro, outro. Back to back.
Oh, okay. Let's do both.
Best of both worlds.
Right. Okay. Best of both worlds. Thank you.
There it is.
Come a little closer and lend me your ears. Don't worry, you keep yours while I keep mine.
In each episode, we'll dig into the major stories, uncover the truth, and retrieve gems from Yada's blog.
We'll discuss what's right, bark about what's wrong, wag our tails at the thrill of discovery, and take you on adventures through the exciting world we live in today. So, fasten your curiosity leash and get ready.
Right then, coming to you with another episode of the Yada's Vlog on a Blog. Tomorrow's news, disseminated today. Let's dive in.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.